And you do know that we had a statement coming from the presidency, and ultimately it was issued by Director of Communications, Eugene Ahing, but it was on the Auditor General, has been asked to proceed on leave, apparently 123 days outstanding, but we just want to bring you some background relatedly to the Auditor General and where we are with his office. He was appointed and sworn in as the new Auditor General of Ghana on 30th of December 2016, just during the exit period of the last NDC administration. Now, this generated controversy of furore as preparations for John Mahama to hand over to Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo as president were just underway. Now, following the change in government, he carried out a special audit that saw government save from honoring some 4.5 billion Ghana cedis in debts, we're told. And over the period, we've had a number of reports as well and some confrontations that have since moved on, because in 2018, the period of September, he petitioned the presidency accusing an appointee who was serving as board chair of the audit service, Professor Edward Duajma, a former auditor general himself, of unlawful interferences and violations of his work. You know, and we know that his office is backed by the Constitution, 1992 Constitution, but these were denied. And following that, the relationship has been strained. You will remember just December of last year, 2019, the senior minister sued the Auditor General, challenging a surcharge that one of his report or one of the officer's report had leveled on his office and him. He later cited Mr. Domelevo for contempt of court after he failed to respond to the case within some 14 days. Of course, we know what transpired at the courts. And he said, I've said this and I will repeat it, that once you fight corruption, corruption will fight you back, and it will fight you in a way that it can justifiably or unjustifiably. You know, one of the notable quotes of the man who has been appraised and commended widely by civil society, anti-graft campaigners for being an astute person. Now, the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, following the statement that we already know, says he's directed Mr. Daniel Domelevo, the Auditor General, to take his accumulated leave. And apparently, accumulating the numbers 123, the president's decision to direct Mr. Domelevo to take his accumulated leave is grounded in law, according to the statement. And it continued that, well, he hasn't taken his leave since. We know that Gifty Ando-Apia had an interaction with the board chair, a former Auditor General himself, Duajma, and we know what the responses have been. We'll bring you that, but let's get on to the streams and speak to Austin Gummy. He is a labor consultant, widely conversant with the structures of our labor law and how they work and what needs to be done. Let me first ask you, Mr. Gummy, what do you make of all this? Coming to a head just by the close of yesterday, the news day yesterday.
Good morning, my friend. I'm pleased you are asking me this question. I feel very sad that this thing is happening in our country, particularly because of the times and the seasons in which we find ourselves. Nonetheless, it has been done, and so we have to live with it and move forward. But generally speaking, by practice and the law, it's not supposed to be that way, but it's been done. I don't know whether they can revert it, but it's been done already.
What has been done? If you look at the statement, there are sections of law that has been quoted. It's backed by good regulation. That's justifiable.
Yeah, generally speaking, let me be very open and honest with your listeners, that no one is expected to accumulate leave even for one day. The reason being that under the law, Section 31, which was rightly quoted, is is void. That's exactly what we put there under Section 31. Now, at the beginning of the year, it's expected, like any company, be it private, public, or whatever, the HR department is supposed to put together leave roster that might be religiously followed, except the need arises that they will have to postpone your leave within the year, but which you have to take latest by 31st December of the same year. You are not supposed to carry your leave forward. That is the intent of what we put there under Section 31. So whoever will accumulate leave up to 123 working days, what it means is that the only one that can be credited to you will be for the year in which we live in now, let's say 2020. If anything at all, Mr. Domelevo can only have access to his 2020 leave. All the rest from 2017 to 2019 is actually forfeited. It's not supposed to be given to him again. So if you give it out, what it means is that you are causing us to lose money. So I don't know why he has not been taking his leave.
Okay. So if you don't take your leave, and I've gone through the regulation, it's sanctionable, right? There's a forfeiture, or you are asked to proceed for that annual year.
You are not supposed to be forced to go on leave. You are supposed to take your leave. If you don't take it, you have forfeited it. But let me also say that the reasoning behind Section 31 is to enable us as a nation, as companies, to develop the skills of each and every one. Because this body is a dying body. It can die anytime. If you die, someone must be there to do your work. And therefore, if you don't allow people to take their leave, you make people think gods. You make people look as though they are indispensable. So under the law, we are supposed to take our leave so that people's skills can be developed. So we have a fluid and a versatile working people that are available at any point in time. But to keep someone, I'm surprised to hear that we have a leave that today is the presidency that will have to order that the person will have to go on leave. That is inappropriate, but nonetheless, it's been done. And so we'll take it like that. And the precedence that is being referenced is what amazed me the more. Error is error. So we cannot today say that we should build an ark and let people who want to go to heaven go into the ark and go to heaven. It's Noah's Day's idea. So you can't bring a wrong thing that has been done during late Atamel's period into today. It's inappropriate. It's unacceptable.
In other words, you're saying even if Noah was still in existence today, if he wanted to save people from floods, definitely wouldn't have been using an ark.
Well, those people were supposed to be hidden and go to heaven, and you can't use that today. It's unacceptable.
Okay.
Today you have to get the Holy Ghost and go to heaven.
If the Auditor General, his employer, was supposed to then make him forfeit his outstanding, ultimately it means that this shouldn't have been effected. Is that it?
Precisely so. I mean, the leave is void. The language we use there, the last word under Section 38 is that you will consider your leave to be void if you don't take it. By 31st December this year, under normal circumstances, you are supposed to proceed on leave. If you don't go, your leave has become void, is forfeited to that employer. It means you are not willing to take it. If you are sick, there is a procedure you go through. If you are not available to do your work, it's a different ball game altogether, But this is a completely different thing, and I don't know where it's coming from, but it sounds very strange to me.
There are fears that employers use this as an exit policy.
No, that is not the practice.
Okay.
It's not the practice. The practice is that you must take your leave. Look, it's only let's say this year, 2020, there is going to be a retirement for you, or then you proceed on leave and go on retirement. But if it's, let's say, a severance, then that leave that you have not taken, as a practice, HR will advise that they should encash it and pay to you because you are going anyway. But this one is not a severance exercise. It's also said that he should go and return to work also in the future. That is not supposed to be the case. I'm speaking from a professional point of view. The politics aside, the issue is that if you have to go on leave, you must go on leave. If you will not go on leave, then it means you don't have leave days. It means you don't have it at all. So I don't know where this is coming from, but and it's 123 days, and the precedence is coming from the late Atamil's time. I wonder why it is so.
Well, we've been joined by Adamson Solano. He's an anti-corruption campaigner. Good morning to you also, Mr. Solano.
Good morning to you too, sir.
And for you in anti-corruption in civil society, you view this as a veiled attempt, right? A veiled attempt to intrude into the Auditor General's actions or workings or office. Is that what I observe?
Well, we cannot say for certain. I mean, the briefing we are getting appears to suggest that the Auditor General does have the opportunity to decide how to take his leave. I mean, I think there's a constitutional element that allows him to do that. So we think that this is something that should have been discussed. It's strange to put it on the back of something that happened in Atamil's time. In fact, a reference to that wasn't necessary at all. It just sets the tone for the kind of partisanship we don't want in this country. But critically, this is a strong leader. This is one of the few people who has demonstrated that every bone and fiber, whatever in him, is bent on making sure that this nation gets value. And so we will not discount the value, the expertise he brings to bear on that institution. And we are not in a hurry to say anybody should dispense of his services. If he needs to arrange to take some portion of his leave, let that be discussed. We think that the timing is not right, and we think that one should allow him, if he has to take the leave, to stagger it so that we can still benefit from what he has to offer.
Let me take you through to some writings from a lawyer and also somebody who has a CDD currently. We're talking Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh, and he's very emphatic. He says that I find it interesting that the president and his lawyers will treat the relationship of the president to the Auditor General, an independent constitutional office holder, as some mundane employer-employee relationship regulated by everyday labor law, as opposed to a relationship of high substance and consequence mediated by the Constitution and the principles emanating from that document. The mere fact that the president appoints a certain constitutional office holder who, like every other occupant of a public office, is paid from public funds, does not thereby create between the two a simple employer-employee relationship in which the president is employer and the other the employee. Otherwise, what is to stop the president from ordering, say, a chief justice or an EC or a Shraj commissioner or chair to proceed on accumulated leave or do any other act that employers ordinarily can command their employers to do? What do you make of the statement?
I think Professor Prempeh very succinctly puts the concerns we have. One doesn't understand why, especially when those who speak for the people, civil society, we have consistently indicated that there is everything to show that this person champions the cause of the ordinary Ghanaian. He's not there because of one party or the other. The job he's doing is the kind of job that saves this nation millions of cedis. And so let's guard that relationship with a certain amount of respect that makes all of us feel comfortable that together with the government of the day, we are fighting corruption. It sends the wrong message when all of a sudden in an election year, this issue comes up and the legal framework doesn't actually support what is going on. One would have expected some, behind the scenes discussions, so that is the Auditor General himself who may have informed all of us that I have decided to do ABC. I think Professor Prempeh puts it into context for all of us.
Mr. Gummy, let me just put this to you. A good friend of mine just drew my attention to this, Dr. Schmidt Norman. And he says, Section 31 of the Labour Act says any agreement to relinquish the entitlement to annual leave or to forgo such leave is void. It means even accumulated leave days can be taken at any time that job taxonomy allows. What do you say to this?
Look, to be honest with you, you are not supposed to accumulate leave to start with. If you have to go and do a program somewhere and it is in the interest of the organization you work for, you'll be permitted to go on that program. You don't need leave to take that, to do that program. So leave, the spirit behind having annual leave to be taken yearly is to enable each and every one to go and have a good rest, have re-energize yourself and return to work. That is the intent behind this. When we're writing the law, we generated over 2,000 pages of information. It's not just Section 31, as you see there, that answers it. The spirit behind it is for each and every one to go on leave. And if you go, people will be developed with time so that when tomorrow, if Domelevo should retire or should even die, the next day they will form a committee to take over his job and somebody will take over the job. So we don't need to have somebody to hang around forever. And coming to talk about 123 days, and the order will be from the office of the president. This is a little, amazing. And also the fact that wrong reference have been made. That is perhaps the most grievous part of the whole thing. If they were saying that you must arrange to take your leave, and they will arrange it in such a way that he would even take it, even though it's error still. Saying is that sit on leave and even return in the future. I didn't read that he is supposed to proceed and then go on retirement. He might return in the future. And then the reference is to the late Atamil's time when someone else was made to go. I think that is where the problem is. It shouldn't have been referenced at all. Let's assume it's a mistake and it should not be repeated by anybody in this country again. But it's wrong. It's wrong, completely.
All right, we have to end the conversation, but let me give you the last word, Mr. Senano. So this one, you anti-corruption campaigners view it as show of power?
No, we don't know how to describe it. I mean, to be honest with you, it's surprising. And I think many people have been concerned about who is advising the presidency. What kind of consultations are going on there? Because this is not the kind of route one expects the presidency to take. And from our perspective, Yes, Mr. Domelevo is not indispensable. I mean, one should make sure we're building institutions so there's somebody who can take over, etc. But the manner in which we handle these things sends a message. And from the anti-corruption perspective, this is not a very healthy message because we think it could have been organized in a much better way, especially given the constitutional clauses we are aware of. So the presidency may want to take a look at it again. I'm glad Mr. Domelevo has not rushed to be in the public space speaking. That allows a certain amount of integrity and decency. We are hoping that discussions can continue. Let's see what will come out of this. But at this point, the ideal situation should have been that, assuming there is accumulated leave that he can still take, we would have wanted a situation where one is staggering it, because at this point, it would seem to send the message that we want him out of the way so that, I mean, other things can happen. The timing and everything is not good enough. That may not be the case, but we think we can do much better as a country.
We'll see how that goes. Well, it means that he's taking 1/3 of the year off. That's okay. Thank you very much, Austin Gummy, Labour consultant, and then also Adamson Solano, anti-corruption, anti-graft campaigner. And we're hoping that we'll have some greater conversation on this subject. But in the meantime, we're bringing to you a live coverage of the registration that is ongoing across the country. Already we're getting the reports from our correspondent that social distancing is not being observed. We also don't have the Electoral Commission officers enforcing it as we were told or were promised. And then those health assistants that we needed at these registration centers have so far not been cited by our reporters, at least at the centers that we have been. But that's where we take a break. When we come back, we'll bring you more right here on the show.